Alright, welcome to Stampscaping 101. Let's try out some new media and more specifically combinations of media here. I have three different colors of Stardream paper. If you don't know Stardream, it's that kind of pearlescent, iridescent type of paper. Very, I would say very reflective. Reflective is now relative in comparison to, say, like a cardstock. But I've been using my very mirrored gold papers these days, which is truly like a mirror. So we're talking about super reflective. But I do have some silver now. It's kind of like chrome. I think it could be called either one. But I have these four papers that I want to try out. I did buy some other papers, but I don't know how long this is going to take, but I do have a lot of different colors here and combinations to test out. Now, I'm really unfamiliar with these colors that I'm opening here. If I've used a lot of Brilliance pads before, I would probably have a pretty good indication of the tone and value of these colors on top of, both dark and white, just plain papers and whatnot, but I don't. These are all kind of new to me. I've had Galaxy Gold and Moonlight White, and that's what I've been using with the gold reflective foil style of paper, and I love it. So, I wanted to try some different colors and I guess maybe values of color too. Alright, so I bought some re-inkers for my 15-year-old pads here because I really needed that. Although those are working pretty good, so I want to be careful not to over-ink something like, that type of pad here, because these inks here, I kind of refer to pigment ink pads. I mistakenly say paint a lot because it does have that painted type of feel to it. I don't even know what this is. Oh, create a side swatch label for stack pads. That's pretty interesting. I don't recall having that before. Okay, so what do we have here? We have copper, platinum planet, which, I don't know, it seems like a silver to me, and this one's starlight silver. All right. Let's see what the difference is between, I don't know, these two especially. And let's take a look and see what kind of combinations we can come up with on these types of papers right here. I don't know. I'll have to try them on just regular cardstock sometime. Or on the non kind of reflective types. I think these would look fantastic just on some dark papers and whatnot from what I've experimented with so far. So I don't know, let's give it a shot here. Okay, now let's see. Starlight Silver, I gotta make sure that these are color-coded so I know which ones of these go back with what pad. Interesting, these ones didn't come with the that little side, label thing like the copper did here. I don't know. Maybe one of the latest developments or whatnot, you take that and kind of put a little swatch on it and, tape it to the side right here, which is really good because we stack our pads, right? Unless you have one of those kind of pad organizers, which I do, but it's kind of off on my shelf. I usually just have all of my pads stacked on my desk for readily available, to use. I do get a little bit organized, but not a whole lot. If it kind of slows down my process and whatnot, if I have to think about something and go grab it, I'm less likely to do it than if it's kind of readily available right in front of me. But I don't know what I'm going to do because I'm really running out of room now. Okay, so let's see this right here. Okay, so this is going to be the Platinum Planet. Let's test out these two papers, or colors right here. Maybe I don't know, the Platinum Planet, is it kind of silver? It really looks like paint. Okay, let's just do a little test on here first and see what that's going to look like on here. Okay, interesting. It's kind of got that little bit of a shimmer to it, right? That looks like it'll stamp out really good. I mean, I just put like a really thin swatch too, by kind of rubbing it like that. I'm not recommending you use your finger, to do something like that, but this is kind of like a little test here. Okay, let's see that, and let's go with this. It looks like one is going to be a little bit more. This one right here, I keep forgetting the name, Starlight Silver. It looks like it's going to be a little bit more opaque. This one feels a little bit more watery, so I don't know if that's the thing that's going to be kind of affecting opacity. But if one is a little bit stronger and one's a little bit weaker, especially with scenic stamping, when you're using these types of elements, you can use that to your advantage because the way that you create depth, I mean, there's different ways you can do it, but a lot of times you play around with value. And the darker something is, the farther back in the distance it seems. And that could be, you can utilize opacity and translucency for that. The more translucent, moving towards transparent, the more see-through it becomes. Okay, let's try these two on this one right here. All right. Oh, this is interesting here. Or is it? I think I had these ones reversed, or did I? Okay. Yeah, this one is a lot stronger. Okay, but both of them read pretty well on the gold, don't you think? You're probably wondering, okay, yeah, but how does that apply to usage? Now, those two silver ones on here, this is what I'm kind of most interested in. If you want silver on silver, or a certain color on another color of a media on surface, they have to be a little bit different in terms of value, right? I mean, they could be different in terms of things like texture too, for it to stand out. But mostly it's value. That's one of the real important ones. How relatively light and dark is it? Is it going to stand out? So it has to be a lot lighter or a lot darker, if it's the same hue. Okay, we can change hues, and I can put copper or gold on top of this, but will one of these two show up on here? So let's give it a shot here. Okay. That one looks like it's a little bit darker than this ground right here, this silver Stardream paper. Now let's try this real opaque one. Oh, okay. That is really interesting to me. That, look at this. That thing is invisible, right? When it's reflective, but look at that. So if we stamp something out in that color, it could be really interesting in terms, it's like disappearing ink or something like that. I mean, look at that. I cannot tell that that's on there. I mean, I can kind of tell a little bit because I know where that is, but if I didn't know that was there, I'm standing or sitting just a couple inches away. I can't see that. Okay, so that might be an interesting type of thing right there. Okay, now let's try it on the mirrored foil paper, okay? Now these types of things do not dry. Brilliance does not dry on here quickly, okay? It's like 2 or 3 days. Someone posted that they tried and it didn't even dry in like 3 days, okay? You gotta let it set up. I mean, the colder it is in your house too, the longer it's going to take. That shows up not too bad. I didn't think it was going to work. Let's try this thick one here. Okay. So there you have the silvers on there. It's interesting in terms of contrast though, isn't it? When you put those two very shimmery types of materials like that on this dark paper, I mean, that looks like a shimmery type of medium. But when you get such a mirrored surface like that, in terms of contrast, these things look flat. They look like gray paint or something like that, don't they? It's because they're up against something that's just way more, it has way more of that characteristic than what you're applying to it. So, everything's by contrast. Perception is by contrast. Okay, so we have those right there. All right, let's try the gold on there as well. Oops, I have that copper. Let's try the coppers on here. I don't do this for every medium that I'm trying out. I know dye-based inks pretty well. The difference that, between certain inks is viscosity and saturation in terms of brightness, usually. And, I mean, the hue is going to be different, but I know all those really well, but I don't know this type of medium on these other types of papers, so this is all kind of a learning type of thing for me. All right, now, how is something like a bronze going to show up on silver? It's kind of interesting. Bronze goes pretty well, I think, in terms of a color combination with, blues. I mean, metallics, they have a kind of a natural harmony with other hues. I mean, you can put a bronze with a white and a green or something like that, and that would be kind of interesting. I think certain combinations work better, maybe, but as long as you kind of bring certain types of elements together and you repeat the color enough in terms of creating repetition and continuity, I think metallics can pretty much work with just about anything. Um, Sometimes you just have to keep it simplistic, though, or you have to do this triadic kind of color combination. Okay, so there's that right there. It almost looks like a rust, though, doesn't it? Without that kind of reflective type of quality coming off of it. Stands out more against the dark blue in terms of the reflective quality of it. All right, remains to be seen. Let's take a look at um, white here, okay? And now I'm going to have to do a lot of different combinations of that, but we're going to stamp out some imagery in this video as well here. All right, so let me try this out here. White. White on this really looks beautiful. White on the silver Stardream, I think, is going to be practically invisible. So maybe if I stamp something like this one down here, and I stamp something white over the top of it, I think that'll stand out against this imagery. But just on its own against that silver, kind of foundation, I think it's going to be practically invisible. So I don't know how effective that would be. White on kind of a dark blue should be just fine. Okay, now one of the reinkers that I bought was my Moonlight White, just because it is really quite dry. So it should stand out a little bit more than that. It's kind of interesting, though, that silver really pops out more than the white, doesn't it? Okay. And white on... I feel like I'm using a stamping tool here. My finger. Maybe it's this is all of our first color application tools, is our fingers, And the white really looks, I love it on this mirrored surface. It really stands out. I know it does on the gold, so I think that's a winner. It would just, I'm going to have to see how any type of metallic will show up on this. This one might have to be with a black brilliance or something like that. I've kind of been staying away from that because I think that could potentially look a little bit heavy on something like this, but I don't know. It would just depend if I want something to be paired with the white on silver. I think the white on silver itself would look okay too. Now we're not even talking about embossing. I think embossing kind of opens up even a world of combinations that I'm not even thinking about here. All right, let me leave these. I need more room on my desk here. I did buy some other things too, but let's leave that for another video here. The Stays on Pigment ink. Snowflake. Sounds kind of interesting. I'll be curious to see how that works on this these different surfaces here. Okay, so if I can remember which one is which, that would be great here. I think I'm interested in, from these initial tests right here, I think I'm going to be interested in testing out those silvers first. Okay, let me get organized here and returning this to that. Okay. It's confusing here. I have all these pads and like, what happened to the top for this one? Does this happen to you guys too? Here we go. Okay. Planet. Starlight Silver. Is that Starlight Silver? Sorry, folks. I don't know the names of all these. And the bronze here. Let's try those ones out. Okay, so let's play around. Let's just keep this real simple. I'm going to be using the pine tree right here. It happens to be in nature set number 6, kind of the set of the moment right now. After that really cool Stamp Wars event. I kind of laugh when I say it because it was just so much fun watching that thing. There's some really great chemistry between, I don't know, it's called Stamp Wars. Do you call it the rubber stamp combatants on there? But it's, if you haven't checked out Stamp Wars, check out the Nancy Stamps channel and see the past Stamp Wars and whatnot. But it's really fun to watch those live. And I think one's coming up this weekend or something like that again. So check it out. It's some really good stamping fun. Okay, so let's try the, boy, this one's going to be delicate, I think. Let's try the Silver Stardream, and that thing is crazy how that thing disappears. Let's try that, especially the Starlight Silver on here, okay? Wow. It's like disappearing ink, you know? Okay, let me see. When my stamp is bigger than the pad, I tend to go pad to stamp. And when my stamp is smaller than the pad, I tend to go stamp to pad, okay? So pad to stamp right here. Give it nice, even coating. Boy. There's nothing like a brand new pad, I tell you, in terms of just the amount of coverage. And I'm usually doing that with dye-based inks. Okay, so let's do a vertical right here. I was going to do one of those things where, you know, I have this circle of trees and it looks like you're looking up into the sky. But let's do it like this. Even though I did those little tests, what goes through my mind right now is this really going to show up on here at all? It just looks so similar to the same value as the card itself, but no. Look at that. I don't know what it looks like to you. Look at that. Okay, now this is interesting. This is different than the mirrored surface, okay? You go like this, and it's a dark tree on a lighter background, right? But then, because of the nature of this ink, we go like this, and now the tree's lighter because it's reflecting more light than the paper. Now, I don't know what this is going to look like in terms of that quality of it when it dries. And this should dry on the Stardream paper a lot faster than it does on that foil silver board. But if that characteristic remains through the drying process, that to me is a super dynamic application for this ink. Because, I mean, it's almost like foil. It's like a dark image on a background, but then you get that interactive foiling type of look where you have this mirrored reverse type of image on a darker background. So dark on light and light on dark. That to me is really amazing. I'm trying to think of, I mean, I don't know if there's any kind of bad things, negatives with this combination, like, I don't know, like drying time or something like that. I don't anticipate it though, because I know dye-based inks even dry on the Stardream for me. Maybe not instantly, but we're not talking 3 or 4 days like the foil paper. Okay. Let me try to go for a kind of a, well, okay, let me see, like that. All right, look at that. Okay, so we go like that. You go like that. I don't know. Sorry for geeking out, in terms of I don't know, my ink delight or whatever when I see that type of thing. I always like those kind of maybe unanticipated, I don't know, benefits. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, with something like that. Some people are telling me, in terms of their experimentation, and I've always said this through the years. I see my work area, my entire workspace, as a lab in a way. Okay, you can see it as your studio and a place to create your masterpieces and whatnot. Okay, and that's fine, but also see I think your workspace as like your laboratory. So if you see yourself as going in and you're going to work on this piece of art or something like that, there might be inherent pressure with that. But if you go into your um, craft room and you think, you're going into the lab, there's a different type of spirit, I think, that's inherent in that type of perspective. And I think it leaves yourself open to more possibilities in terms of what you can encounter during that time that you're in there. Um, I don't know. They say, what is that saying? If you go into something looking for anything, you're more likely to, you're very likely to find it than if you go into something looking for something specific, you know. And what that might be is like a certain end result, okay? Like, and then you start working towards it and you don't see it, and, you know, it can be inherently frustrating or something like that. Um, Instead of leaving yourself open to the possibilities. So I don't know. Okay, so here's just a bunch of trees. What I'm looking on this is I kind of ghosted it. So what I did was I wiped off some bottom like that so it would transition from wet to dry. But I used the secondary, third, fourth, fifth impression of it to really build up like that, okay? So it looks like a kind of a deeper forest of trees. Now let's see what this kind of looks like in terms of that reflective quality of it. Look at that, how that changes right there. Now, I'm not seeing this as like like a great card or a great composition or something like that. I'm testing for different values, and I'm testing for what that, my impressions look like on that. I don't know. I find that really interesting. Now, what I do is I'm kind of what's going through my head is what else can we apply to this? And oh, I've been just doing some things with different inks, such as white inks, bleed-proof white, and whatnot. I think that could be interesting. Okay, let's take a look. What did white look like on there? I'm looking at that. I'm trying to think of with white. If I stamp out a quote in white in here, will it even show up? I don't know. Let's test it out. Or do we stamp it in silver? I don't know. Let's try it in the silver. Okay. Hmm. You know, I'm doing it in this silver right here. I completely forgot about that other silver ink. Wherever it went. This is the Moonlight White, right? I'm losing stuff that's right in front of my face. Is this the, where's the color on this one right here? I think that's the silver right there, right? Where is it? Man, I'm unorganized. I apologize. I think that's the first silver impression word quote I've ever done before. I'm going to put this up and kind of off-center a little bit. Even a small star shines in the darkness. I'm kind of interested. What would this look like with some sort of... Look at that, in terms of card, like that. The composition, you know, is minimal. I mean, it needs some other things on there, but I think that would look pretty cool to have this as a, you know, kind of a framing device. Okay. I cannot believe, I think this is that silver one right there. Okay. All right, let's try something. I'm going off a little side thing right here with the Dr. Martens on here, but this thing has developed interesting to me. I might want to apply some of this Dr. Martens on there in terms of a little bit of that snowy type of look. Let's test it out here. Okay, so we have our Dr. Martens bleed-proof white. It's a very, very opaque white. You can use a lot of other things for this. People use correctional pens and whatnot, and they put that, you know, white out on different things and splatter it. But if you like that look, okay, or that whole texture and process, I would recommend getting some of this bleed-proof white. It's not too expensive, and one bottle can really go a long ways. It can last you for years, and it's like this cost of, like, I don't know, like 1 or 2 pads or something like that. Okay, so I'm going to splatter this on here like so. Let's not do too crazy with it, though, but because the surface itself is already fairly dynamic. Okay. Now, having splattered it like that, let's take a look. I'm just kind of curious right here. We have this kind of white element in here now. So if we went with something like this is just a piece of copy paper like this, but if I put this like this, let's just do a quick little test here of a card formatting. See, look at that. With a little bit of that white right there on that white. And I would put some snow on those trees like that. I think this would be kind of interesting. And look at that. So you can imagine some additional highlighting on there. Okay, but I'll do a card like that. I really want to get back to this and test this out a little bit further in terms of exploring that medium on there. Okay, now, I tell you what, while we're still on that, this is what, the unexpected comes up, you know, when you're experimenting, right? Let's go with this tree again here, okay? But let's use it with this Platinum Planet. Let's see what the Platinum Planet looks like on here, on the Silver Stardream as well. So we'll go with a couple different colors on here. Okay, let's go this. Let me go horizontal this time. Maybe it'll leave room for additional impressions. I do like my metallic on metallic combinations. I think it's, see, look at that. It's gone. That tree is gone on that side. Those trees are like almost invisible on that side when you do that. It seems like there's something we can do with that dynamic there. Um, you can create some kind of like dialogue in terms of nature or anything. You can kind of do this, play this visual dialogue with kind of disappearing elements. You probably have some kind of stamps where you can kind of come up with some kind of scenario where you can utilize that aspect of the that quality of I don't know, the nature of the combination. Describe what I'm trying to explain there. Okay, let's try some Platinum Planet here. Will it show up at all? Remains to be seen. Invisible. Practically. Look at that. Okay, but let's see if we can utilize that to our advantage, okay? It's lighter than the tree in the foreground, right? It's practically invisible. We can get depth with the use of lighter shades of the existing color, okay, by multiple stampings of it. Or if you just have another color that's just inherently lighter, you can just stamp it right in there, okay? Let's go like this. Now, because it's inherently lighter, you can stamp it over the top of the darker one. And I think the darker one should show through. I don't think it's going to look as if the lighter one is in front of the silver, okay? I think it should look like it's in back. And I think that does. So, okay, because it shows up so minimally, see, we can use that to our advantage there. It can be like this ghost in the fog in the background. If you wanted to do something, we're talking about something very, very subtle. So if you want to deal with kind of subtlety, that's where you kind of, what that does is it creates this notion of something in between you and the object, meaning the space between, okay? It means that there's fog or something like that in between, and it's breaking up that image when the light reflects off that background image or that tree, and it goes back to your eye. It's, I forgot what it's called. Is it refraction or what? But the image breaks up, so it becomes much dimmer, and I think that's what gives things a certain type of mood. It's the space in between the objects, and mostly what we're dealing with is we're dealing with value. It's the manipulation of values when it comes to art, and it's always reflective art because, light is hitting off of our papers, be it a reflective surface like this or white paper, and coming back to us. But, oh, look at that. So you get less light on there, and look how much they show up. And it goes like that, and it's like they're darker. Look at that. When it gets really reflective, they completely disappear, but these ones shine. It's like magic stamping or something like that, It's like playing around with some kind of novelty ink or something of that sort, where it disappears. It's like something, it seems like, we can come up with something like that for, stamping with kids, and playing around with that. Like you can stamp something, let's say we're dealing with teaching kids about something like camouflage or something like that. I think you stamp a little rabbit or something like that, in a scene, and you hold it up to the light and it kind of disappears or something. I think that would be kind of a fun little thing to do. Let's try white on this. I don't know if it's going to show up at all. Okay, so that Platinum Planet, that's more interesting to me now when I did that. I don't know. It's like a nothing ink on there. But then, dealing with angles and reflections and whatnot, boy, that really adds to the whole, I don't know, realm of possibilities. It's kind of confusing too now because it seems like we can use that to some kind of greater, purpose, that we can kind of take advantage of. It's just a matter of kind of figuring out what that might be. Word stamps or something like that. You play these word stamps against one another where something's on one side and, it says one thing and then you kind of hold it at an angle and something says another. It makes for a really interactive card if you're going to give it to someone because they're going to have to, it's really conducive to kind of playing around with the angles on it. All right, white didn't show up one bit, or did it? I keep saying that, but there it is right there. You can kind of see it right in there, but it shows up like that, though, doesn't it? I don't know. It's really interesting. Okay, so for me, both of the Platinum Planet and the Starlight Silver on Silver Stardream has a world of possibilities. I don't know about the white, though. Um, how much that is going to play a factor. While I have this inked up with the white now, of course, um, this paper comes into play. Darker, any kind of colors, okay? Boy, I was going to say while I have this inked up, but I think, let's just do this one right here. I like to add this white. I've been learning to do this white kind of more for my foreground imagery, but here's my question, would silver stamp in front of this white? Okay, because when I stamp this white down on to over or under gold, it just looks like it's the closest thing to us still. Even when you stamp gold over it, it just seems like the white shows through. I'm talking about the Galaxy Gold Brilliance. But I don't know. I don't know how it's going to look against silver. That silver looks pretty dominant. I don't know why it would be so dominant over, say, like a gold. But I don't know. Okay, so this is Moonlight White. Kind of stamping out as anticipated on here. It doesn't stamp out super opaque on Stardream, okay? I think it might be a little bit more opaque. I'm not sure if this is my juicy Moonlight White or my kind of dry one. Or did I have two? No, I had two golds, I think. I'm not sure if I have another Moonlight White. I do have a ranker for this, so it might stand out much stronger if I re-ink. On the metal kind of foil paper, though, this really looks opaque because hardly any of it transfers over, just because the surface is so non-porous, so it's not absorbing any of that. Okay, now let me go with a couple kind of ghosted images. Boy, that... Okay, now see, the Stardream is so much more absorbent than the foil, so my second impression is really quite faint on there. Let's go for a third impression. Let's see if it looks like it's even farther back in the distance. Okay, so you get something like that. I think that looks interesting in terms of our tree structure in terms of depth. Okay. I'm probably not doing as much experimentation as I should be. I should be using like all colors, but I don't know. There's that part in you where you still want the whole thing to come out looking pretty good. Okay, let's try the Starlight Silver. That's a pretty good pad there. What I like about this is, you know, these metallics, these Brilliance pads, kind of, they almost give you the kind of a slight embossed type of look, pseudo embossed look. I mean, it's not raised or anything like that, but just the fact that you don't have to, you know, go through that entire process. Let's say if, you know, especially if, I don't think that's, you know, embossing is a long process or anything like that. But this is certainly faster. You know, just stamping it out inherently in, you know, a metallic to begin with. All right, the Starlight Silver. And again, this might be because this is just a brand new pad too. Okay, it's super juicy. My other one hasn't been re-inked in 15 years, but I think I could have got stronger impressions in white. But that looks pretty good. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you have to have a little bit of a dry one and, you know, a nice juicy one. Who knows? But this is silver and white on metallic iridescent blue. I think that's beautiful right there. Look at the depth you can get. And we had a decent amount of depth with just the white. And I think, you know, like I said, if I had a more inked up white, I think that would look great too. But look at that. Look at that silver on there. And look at that shimmer to it, you know? I think that looks really great. God. Someone was saying, oh my God, you know, when I started showing some of these different looks, they said, I thought I was, you know, kind of, you know, paring down my spending and purchases. And I said, I thought I was too. You know, I thought I've been using like paper towels, cotton balls, and Q-tips to do my ink applications ever since ClearSnap went out of business. And I've been using just plain papers. I did, you know, some Staples plain cardstock scenes and whatnot. Stamping on photo paper. Everyone's got photo paper from when I used to print out a bunch of things. Photo prints at home, you know, when digital cameras started coming in. But I don't know, this is awfully fun. Okay, I just layered some additional of that silver impressions over the top of that one. So we're talking, I think, a pretty decent amount of depth here using just a couple colors right here so far. Oh my God, I forgot about the I keep forgetting the names of these things. Platinum Planet. That looks good as is. Let me try a Platinum Planet on there. Okay. I think the Platinum Planet maybe has a little bit more of a warmer kind of look to it. I don't know. I think it's a little bit more of a warmer hue, I guess. Okay, let me go. I'll put some in the open, and then I'll overlap with some. I'll overlap one of my, I think, white impressions. Oh, not bad. I don't know how different it looks. It is different. Look at that. It's pretty distinctly different. I don't know, distinctly similar to the silver, but it does look different though. It's far less reflective, I think. So let's say you have the three of them in combination. It's not so different, I think, you know, but I don't know. If you have it, you can use it. And that is what that looks like on. Look how dimensional that looks when you go like that. Doesn't it look more deeper, I guess, than like that? Okay. Man. Gold. Stardream. You know that, what was that, that song Silver and Gold from, what was the movie that one was in? I forgot. Okay, God, I need to really be careful about kind of mixing up my, my inks here. I'm going to write on the back of this one what color it is. It's probably sitting there right there somewhere, but I don't know. Okay, let's try the gold here. I know I love mirrored gold paper. Let's see what I think about the gold Stardream iridescent paper upon my initial test here. Okay, let's go. Let's do more of a kind of a straight test than kind of coming up with these, you know, card style scenarios here. Let's just go white. Okay, looks pretty good in terms of the look of it against gold. Okay, let's try. Okay, I haven't been trying copper. I can't wait to do this like copper on the metallic mirrored gold. Might be kind of interesting. I never know what these are going to look like over the top of another color. Okay, we have a pretty good idea of what they're going to look like on white, but what is it going to look like on this other type of paper that's not only a different hue, but it's reflective? Is it going to be again, this one's like invisible, okay? That one I think is probably not going to come into play. I think it might look okay on the blue though. Let me test it on the blue. Let's just do it on the back of this one right here. There's my little swatch of it right there, okay? Now these Stardream papers are really unlike the mirrored gold foil sheets, okay? I can just tell just from, that looks pretty good. I'd have to use other components in there kind of related to that. But, okay, I'm not catching that light very well. I'd have to use other components with that foil. But this to me, okay, I mean, it's not sopping wet, okay, but it's because it's drying by absorption as well as evaporation. On this type of thing, it has to dry completely by evaporation. I don't think any of that medium would be absorbed into this at all. That's why it takes so long for it to dry on the mirrored. I really love that look right there. It's so awesome. Okay, so copper on gold, maybe not so much, okay? Let me do a test for you if you bought the mirrored copper, okay? I mean the mirrored gold sheets. They're going to get this back in stock too on in a couple weeks. It's sold out on Amazon. And luckily it's the same price. I was a little worried that they might come back, being that a lot of people, I love it. Look at that. That stands out just fine on there, on gold. And again, it's because it's not absorbing so much of the moisture, so you get a really good impression of it, okay? And let's see how many prints I can get from this. Okay, so there's several different impressions of it. I would never stamp that out like that, but if we want to go for some additional depth and you're kind of layering trees like that, it looks pretty cool. All right. Okay, and I'll show you like this. Like I said, it doesn't dry on here. You know, this to me kind of sets up in about 3 days. And again, I mean, if I wipe my finger right across the dry version of that, I bet you they would probably wipe off. So don't do that, you know. But I do think, as I keep saying, you know, I think this gold foil sheet, the end results look, I think they look dynamic enough to where it's kind of worth the drying. I don't find it a hassle for me. I just kind of put it aside and, you know, I've got stuff drying on the floor, like in a box, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I don't really mind that. Okay, let's get back to this one. Okay, there's white and bronze on there. I don't like the bronze, I'd have to say. I like the white, though. It looks pretty good. And I haven't even tried black or anything like that. I've just been playing around with these other types of combinations here. Okay, let's see. Let's get this. Can't even tell that copper's on there because it's a real similar hue to the, that red rubber. Okay, let's go with Platinum Planet. I don't think Platinum Planet's going to show up on here, but you never know until you try, right? So let's give it a test here. It did show up. I'd say as much as the white. Okay. I would say that looks, it doesn't look silver to me, but it looks more white. That happens to be kind of more like reflective and iridescent than the white. But I mean, just looking at it straight without any kind of real strong reflective type of quality against it, it just looks like white to me. Interesting. Okay, let's test out the Silver Starlight. I need to remember that name because I think I'm going to be using it quite a bit. You gotta love that coverage and how well that inks up like that. It's been a while since I've had a brand new pigment ink pad. I've had, the Hero Arts Moonlight White, but I use it, kind of in a very soft, kind of fogging type of effect. I usually don't use it to stamp out imagery in. All right, now that Silver Starlight just stands out really well against that gold. And again, this isn't, you know what I mean? I think there's some really great applications for this. It's not just scenic stamping either, by any means, but silver on gold with any kind of inks or imagery, it just creates this kind of real festive type of kind of scenario, celebratory, I think, and the possible elegance to it. Let's go for a third impression in the background, but wiping off the bottom portion. Okay, let's take a look at that. Okay. Maybe I wiped off too much. It should have been the second impression of that, but there's the silver, and look at that reflective quality of it. The three different inks on here don't look bad, They all have their own kind of personality to where combining them, I mean, there's a kind of a push and pull in terms of the visual depth of the piece. All right. Now, the surface right here, I kind of almost refer to it as it's almost crazy. I feel it's like a crazy surface to work on. All right, that is that. All right, I think, do I use that? I was thinking if I should use my re-inker before I use this one, but I've been having, with my very dry white pad, it's been stamping just fine onto this mirrored paper again because this mirrored paper just doesn't absorb anything. It's just super non-porous, which I guess it would make sense. It's like if we stamped on aluminum foil, it's not going to be absorbing any of the moisture. Okay, got to counter bend this and get it ready to stamp out. Okay, now, like I said, I have to test some sprays on this at some point in time, but let's give this a shot right here with some imagery. Silver Starlight on silver foil. Okay. I think I'm getting more used to stamping on a very slick surface. I'll never run into a smoother surface, even glossy cardstock when you're stamping onto it, because it has that absorbent factor. It doesn't slide potentially as much as this one. On one of my scenes a couple times ago, on that underwater one, if you've seen that, I laid it down and it kind of moved a little bit on me, but it might have been because I had other impressions underneath it. So I was stamping kind of like a wet paint into like you know, a, a surface of wetness. Okay, this one I'm, stamping on dry, but oh, now that I just moved that one, I stamped it down and it went, but not too bad. Okay, okay, so this is the silver like this, but look how I really like that look. Okay, I love it on the gold, gold on gold. Let's try the silver on gold. Okay, we'll have to try some silver on silver sometime too, maybe. I mean, gold on silver, or maybe you do this: you go silver on gold, and you go gold on silver, and you have some sort of thing where, like, those two types of elements are, playing off against one another. That'd be kind of interesting. Or you do some kind of triptych thing. Okay, now I don't know. I'm not going to do a whole scene on this one right here. I just want to do a test of this silver on gold right here, just to see what it would look like. I think a whole silver and gold forest would look awesome. Yeah, that has no problem stamping on top of that. Just the Brilliance pads and this gold foil, the foils, I think really work nicely. I mean, they certainly aren't user-friendly in terms of drying time. So just, if you know that going into it, I think you're good. And I keep reiterating that over and over because I don't want someone to stamp it out and get frustrated, you know, due to kind of certain expectations. Even if they have an expectation that it's going to dry in it, it takes a super long time to do that. I don't know. I just want you to know what you're getting into. As far as what I've found with it so far. Okay, let's try some of this Brilliance ink right here. I think okay, I knew I had another one of these. No, this one's the one that's super dry. Let me see if is this thing ready to go if I just... Oh, okay, this is just ready to go. I didn't know if I'd have to kind of break a seal or something like that. Okay, so we have that, and okay, I need to spread that around a little bit. Let's just go with, I'm just going with my acrylic block. I don't want it too juicy, okay, because it's been doing semi-okay, kind of. I like my pads in kind of like a medium state. And because this ink is so thick, I just don't want it to. If I get it too juicy on there, it might seal up some of the details on here when you apply your ink on there. Okay, so you don't want it too overly juicy when you're working with kind of a thicker, inherently thicker medium. Okay, so let's try the white on here. Let's try white and silver on here. I just think that looks fantastic. Okay, that is just... there's just certain charm to these. Now see that, I can feel it kind of swirling out on me right there because it was just, that silver is still wet like this. Here's the interesting thing to me now. I stamped that over the top of that silver, but it receded visually. I think that silver looks like it's closer to us. I don't know if it's because the silver is just more built up in terms of that, if it having more ink applied or not. I don't know. Whereas my gold pads, there was less ink applied, but my Moonlight White, even though it's dry, it was juicier than my gold one. That's why I bought the reinkers. So I don't know. I don't know if it's just buildup wins out, in terms of standing out more or what, or if it's because of the color and value of it standing out. I don't know. That's just a quick observation. Okay, now, yeah. The more I stamp over other types of stamped imagery on the foil one, not on the Stardreams. The Stardreams are already kind of going. You just have to, just be mindful that it doesn't move on you. Okay, so that's silver and white. I think that looks fantastic. So I love silver on silver and gold on gold. And then the white, I think, really helps out with these ones too. It adds that depth that I think, I don't know, do they need it? I don't know, I think it might. I think it looked okay with silver on silver, but I don't know. I just think it adds that white on there. It adds that amount of contrast and depth, and it really kind of makes it pop against that background. All right, so we have some different tests here. There are some things that really kind of stood out to me. I didn't use, did I don't think I used gold on gold, Stardream gold on this, or did I? I mean, the Brilliance gold on this. I think those were the silvers. Okay, here, we have to try out the Galaxy gold on the Galaxy Stardream, of course. Or did I? I can't remember now. If I did it like this in an actual lab setting, I would be getting an F for my scientific method, not kind of having things organized and kind of writing things down and doing things very systematically. But we're just referencing kind of the scientific method, aren't we? Okay, so let's try the gold on gold here. It's really quite faint, okay? In fact, I can barely see it. Again, it comes down to that kind of reflective quality thing. Okay, one of my Brilliance pads is really super juicy, and one of them's like super dry. I think this one's, yeah, the more goldish, orangish looking one, yellow, gold, or whatever, is juicier. And they did stamp out quite different from one another. In fact, this one almost looks too watery. When I ink it up, but I don't think it's going to stamp out at all. But let's give it a try here. Okay, that doesn't show up at all. This is a situation where, see those two different ones? I don't know if you can even see it. I feel that those golds are just too close to the same hue as the gold surface itself, the paper, okay? But the other metallics look pretty good on there. And let me try the gold on... I need to okay, darn it. I need to re-ink this. This is just way too... That re-inker fluid doesn't even look the same color as the ink that's coming off of this pad. Maybe a little bit more. I always used to think that Happiness is a kind of a new pad, or just a inked up pad in terms of the stampers thing. Sorry about the length of this video here. meandering nature of it. Okay, let's try this one out. That looks much better. Here, let me test it on the Stardream here and see if it looks different. I still think it's not going to look too different, but who knows? It looks a lot better. I think it could possibly be used in application and then stamp like a white one over the front of it. That would look like one that's in the distance, but there you go with that kind of reflective quality of going from, barely visible to, pretty visible with the reflection on it. Okay, let's try that on dark blue. Gold and dark blue I think work pretty well in harmony with one another. I'm going to just stamp it over these little finger swatchy things that I did. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the gold on this dark blue. What do you think? See, the dark blue shows through the gold. I think it looks kind of muddy. But the silvers look awesome on there. All right, so I'll keep the golds maybe for some different, types of applications or purposes. Okay, so anyways, my conclusion is that from here, so far, and this is my just initial, not conclusion, but more of my initial thoughts on these combinations here, is that the Starlight Silver and Platinum Planet, okay, they're kind of the same or similar, but they're different enough to where I think, it's not redundant to get, to utilize both, all right? I mean, I think those ones in the background look pretty cool like that. I mean, they're real subtle. And then if you stamp something over the top of it, it would look pretty interesting. The white in the silver Stardream, it's not very visible, but of course, on the darker papers, that white really stands out really nicely. Okay, now, again, that was with a really dry pad, so it's going to be a little bit more opaque, but look how beautiful that one is in terms of creating a lot of depth within that space. And again, okay, now was that a Platinum Planet on there? I can't remember. And then on the silver foil piece, again, I just think that that combination of media on there, that white and related color over that same color surface, just, I don't know, to me it just brings so much depth into the piece like that. And with really minimal effort. Let's say I was doing a card like that, and the quote up here or something like that, you can spray it or whatever. Besides the drying time, I mean, just the stamping part alone, we're talking, I don't know, 2 minutes or something like that. I would probably put some little stars up here, with some crystals or something like that, and mount it on, some kind of interesting papers. You can mount it on, you can utilize the different Stardreams or something like that, or, if this was on some kind of blue like this, I don't know, it looked like it. You'd have to go with look at this, you can go with a silver Stardream around this one like this. Wouldn't that look fantastic? To kind of mount this silver foil onto the silver Stardream. That silver Stardream is really related to that silver, the silver impressions, and then you can have it on, whatever, blue like this. I think that would look kind of interesting, in terms of reflective type of thing. You can go with any color because these ones are, they're fairly neutral when it comes to that. I mean, this would look okay with gold, I think. Maybe not the best choice or something like that, but I don't know. I think it would work, but I don't know. Just something like that just looks really fantastic. Maybe in a real thin kind of white border, before you get to the, that silver one, if you go with like a really thin one like that, and silver like that, wouldn't that look kind of nice right there? The white like that would bring out the white of that one, and then you have the silver to come, to bring out the silver, Starlight Silver impressions. And then you can go crazy, and you can go double matte like that, or mount, and you can have blue out there like that. But wouldn't that be pretty elegant? It's like something like that. Okay, so anyways, my initial tests revealed certain things that were unexpected, certain things that were really unexpected in terms of that kind of reflective type of thing, like this like silver on Stardream like that. I mean, that just, it just kind of disappears. I mean, it completely changes, the whole kind of atmosphere of that. I didn't try that here. Let me do something right here. Looking at this one right here, I didn't even use my white brilliance in there. Or did I? Did I try a white brilliance in there? I can't remember. Let me see if this shows up in here. I think this could use a white impression in there of those trees. Let's give it a shot. A lot of things don't occur to me right in the moment, but it might occur to me afterwards. Like, oh, I think, something, I don't know. It takes a while for it to get put together in my mind. Yeah, that one doesn't show up enough. I think it's really kind of, it's almost invisible. Yeah, the spruce might be better in this one. Something like a stronger tree. Let me try combinations of things. I've just been playing around with the just with that pine right there. Maybe we can use some. I mean, this tree right here is a lot bolder, so sometimes you work the bold and the delicate together to form kind of a good combination of textures. You have the bold against the delicate, so the delicate look even more delicate, and the bold look even more bold by having something more kind of delicate next to it. I don't know. Let's try this out here. Like I said, that silver is a real powerful. Yeah, that silver. It's just hard to stamp over that silver. So if you're gonna, I mean, that white in there is practically invisible. So Starlight Silver, there is something kind of inherently, I don't know, dominant about that color right there. I can't even see that in there, so I can just dab it off if I want to, like that. Okay. I can probably just stamp silver over the top of it. That white one doesn't look bad in there. Huh. You can see it, but I don't know, that reflective. Look at that, now you can see it like that, and it's dark against white. Huh. Okay, but anyways, the reflective type of quality of these things, I don't know. It's going to have to... I got to go back to the drawing board if kind of reflective types of things are going to enter the mix, and if we can utilize that to our own benefit, I think we can get some kind of really super dynamic usages out of these different types of looks here. And like I said before, in the early part of this video, we haven't even kind of touched on the potential of, there's all kinds of different embossing powders out there that can be utilized on these types of things. And then I haven't touched, adding little highlights and things like that might be kind of interesting. I don't have any, there was a blue, like a really super light Brilliance ink pad blue that I think would look great in here. I didn't buy it, but because they only had the re-inker for it. But I think a blue impressions in this blue background would be really interesting, rather than just using white. So you use a blue with a blue Brilliance ink with a silver and then white. It seems like the possibilities would be pretty crazy. But look at that right there. I mean, a quote stamp in there would be fantastic too. I don't know, but like I said, I'll get to some tests using the what I've learned here, and I'll try to come up with some sort of initial scenes with what I've learned right here. What I need to do here is I need to kind of put an arrow to these things and say what color was used on them, what generation. If I can remember at this point in time, I think this one, yeah, this one right here was the silver, white, and platinum planet, you know. But that's what you do. You kind of do these little arrows to them like that, I think. And you can say Stardream paper, um, silver starlight, you know, arrows, platinum planet, moonlight white, going to that. You know, so you just kind of have, until you get really familiar with them. And you might know kind of inherently of, you know, what to use on a given surface. Okay, I'm rambling on, as always, but thank you for tuning into the channel. I hope that you have found some parts of this interesting if you've made it to this point in the video. And I didn't completely bore everyone to death. But I think there's some good potential here. I probably should have bought some more dark Stardream papers and whatnot, but I think this is definitely enough to kind of explore. Look at that fog in those trees like that, and that atmosphere using, what is it, 3 different types of inks. A lot of possibilities with that one. If I'm looking at it like this, maybe not so many possibilities, but when you start looking at, you know, that different kind of reflective quality and the interactive type of surface like that with those inks, I don't know, that looks pretty interesting to me, like that. Okay, thanks again for tuning in. If you have any comments, please list them below, as well as any suggestions. I'm always open to that. Some shimmering spray over the top of that I learned from a video, the Stamp Wars, this weekend. Oh, no, it wasn't Stamp Wars. It was Ryan's channel from Stamp Wars. Okay.